Hey everyone, it's John, head geek at Geek and Dorks, back with another Geek and Dorks review, and I brought my bloody eye just for Halloween. It's getting better, but you know. Anyway, let me start this review with a simple question to you. Have you ever watched a movie trailer and then were disappointed when you got to the actual movie? I think most of us would say yes to that. Now, let me flip it on you. Have you ever watched a movie trailer and when you got to the movie, it was exactly what the movie trailer led you to believe it was going to be? Pretty tall order, and quite honestly, for me personally, that doesn't happen too often. But I can firmly say, in the case of Goosebumps, the trailer was a super accurate representation of what the movie is. It is a great Halloween film. I think this is going to be a new staple in terms of watching around this holiday. I think kids are probably going to eat this up and love it. I was a little too old for the Goosebumps phenomena, but I was working in a video store, part of my historic entertainment career there. I was a manager at a Blockbuster Video, and I remember the cover boxes as the TV show was being released on video. So I was familiar with a lot of the monsters that showed up, at least in terms of their look. I was familiar with them that showed up in the film. Now, I can't tell you as a real Goosebumps fan if they were faithfully reproduced from what the written works are, but I can tell you this movie was extremely enjoyable. I took my wife to see it. It is, like I said, it's family fare. If you have kids and you want to have a great time and help celebrate this Halloween season with them, I highly recommend that you take them to a theater. I'm glad I'm getting this review out at least a couple days before Halloween so you have some time to do it. And I'm sure your kids are going to be thrilled with this movie. Now, what's to like about it? First of all, Jack Black. There's something about Jack Black when you take him and put him around children and for a movie that he thinks will appeal to children. There's something in him that unlocks, and he winds up giving these really fun performances, just compelling to watch. They usually have his sense of humor kind of bleeding through the character a bit. I almost feel like this happened in School of Rock, where he knew he was dealing with kids and there was this extra element of fun that just came out of him. And this film echoes that. There is, even though he's playing this kind of what could be seen as a potentially mean character, especially at the beginning of the film, there's just this fun that's baked underneath it. Like he's got this, mysterious vibe, and he just, as his character opens up to the other characters in the movie, it becomes just more and more entertaining to watch, and you want to see him on this adventure as they're trying to deal with all these Goosebumps monsters that have been released. Just to give you a very brief overview, if you haven't seen a trailer for some reason, essentially Jack Black plays R.L. Stine, and there is a boy that has moved to a new neighborhood, and his neighbor is R.L. Stine, and the Goosebumps books are in the house, and if you unlock one of the books, that monster gets freed. So that's a real basic overview. The kids that were cast in this, really likable. One of them reminded me a little bit of a young, extremely young Freddie Prinze Jr. The young female lead might remind you a little bit of, what's her name? She played Jackie in that 70s show, and now I'm blanking on the actress's name. Mila Kunis. Just very good-looking, likable young people. That being said, things that don't particularly work super great in this movie, for some reason the beginning lags a little bit. It feels like they should be setting up things that will pay off later, and I don't feel like that really happens. There just seems like there's this period of time, and it's right in the beginning of the film, for the first 15 or 20 minutes, usually when exposition is kind of being laid out, and they set up a few things, but there's these spaces in it where I was just really noticing myself listening to the music. And that brings us back over to the good part of what works great in Goosebumps. The score is by Danny Elfman. If you're a fan of Danny Elfman's work at all, He did the Nightmare Before Christmas music. This music sounds like it could have been for a sequel to the Nightmare Before Christmas, or maybe one of the early Batman movies that he scored. It's got just a lot of the sounds that we know and love from Danny Elfman, and a little quirky nature that's built into it. And it's a great soundtrack. I really enjoyed it. As a matter of fact, that's what I found interesting about the first 15 minutes was I was paying more attention to how awesome the music was than I was to the actual scenes that were going on. That being said, after you get past that first 15 minutes, once they really get to the meat of the story, this movie kicks into high gear and it just doesn't stop from there. And it's a lot of fun. It's scary, but not in ways that your children are going to have, extreme nightmares over. Even the way they use CGI, a lot of these creatures are obviously CGI. And there's a few moments in particular where a monster gets a close-up on the camera. But even when they do that, it's done almost in a cartoony kind of take, which plays really well and takes the sting out of it being truly menacing. And all of a sudden there's this weird little wink of fun that is in those scenes. As a matter of fact, something that I was really compelled by when I left the theater was how much I liked these villains. Some of them are extremely likable. There's a mannequin in it that doesn't like to be called dummy. It's kind of a running gag throughout the movie. And by the end of it, you're kind of like, you know what? I mean, I liked the good guys, but how often do you come out of a movie and you're like, I really liked that team of bad guys? There's even a werewolf in it, and he doesn't speak at all, and you don't really know his backstory, but for some reason, I was strangely compelled by that character, and you almost feel sympathetic towards him at times. So it's very, very cool writing. The special effects, like I said, there's tons of CGI, so some of it doesn't look exactly photorealistic, but for this type of story, the way it's being told, that does not matter at all. It feels like it's not that it's made for kids necessarily, but it's definitely keeping them in mind as the story is progressing. And it kind of taps into that little kid in you and gets you excited about this kind of stuff again, which was a really unique treat for me. Apparently it's doing pretty well. It's not like a huge success in the box office, but I think last week it came in just 500,000 shy of knocking out The Martian from the first place spot. And I believe this movie might have some legs in it. I think hopefully good word of mouth, stuff like this, people talking about it that have seen it, will get more people to go and check this out, because honestly, it's a real treat. I truly enjoyed it. Might even be a good date movie for younger couples. But outside of that, great family film. And I'm telling you, every Halloween, there'll be some channel or someone lucky enough to license that thing and run it every Halloween, because it just resonates with the spirit of the season. Even though the story doesn't necessarily take place around Halloween, just with all the types of monsters that are in it. And something that totally surprised me, the end credits have a really cool 3D animation, kind of little, not a story, but a bunch of imagery going on that reminds you of some of the characters that you saw. Does include some jack-o'-lanterns and stuff like that. You really wanted to stick around for the end credits because the animation was so cool looking. As a matter of fact, I would love to have a copy of just that animation just to watch it again. It was really, really interesting. So for me personally, this was probably an 8.5 out of 10. There's not a whole lot that you could knock this movie for outside of, like I said, the first 15 minutes are kind of slow. There's a motherly character in it that the actress might be seen as, a little, not weak, but just not particularly, she's not particularly compelling. She doesn't really grab you or convince you that she's in that role. But those are super, super minor things compared to the amount of fun, laugh out loud moments, and excitement that this movie generates. It almost feels like a little mini trip to Disneyland during the Halloween season or something. It's just got this fun that is baked into it and just keeps coming out. I really, really enjoy this. That being said, I think on IMDb right now it is rating somewhere around a 7, a little bit under a 7 out of 10, so it seems like I'm a bit higher than the average on this. But if you're one of those people that, like I said, watches movie trailers and you're always disappointed that the movie doesn't suit the trailer, if you watch that movie trailer for Goosebumps and you like it, go see the movie, and I'm practically guaranteeing that you're going to agree that the movie fits what the trailer shows, gives you all of that and then some. So I'm looking forward to your input on this, and while we're at it, I'm also curious about Halloween movies. Are there any others that you watch every year at Halloween? Nightmare Before Christmas is obviously a huge one for me. There's few movies that really kind of pop up for me seasonally like that, but Nightmare Before Christmas is definitely one of them. And like I said, I think Goosebumps is going to be added to that list. But if you've got other suggestions, please put them in the comment box below. I'll be sure to check them out. Thank you so much for hanging out with me on this Geek and Dorks review, and I'll see you at the end of the week with a brain scratch. Take care.